The rescued girls are now in the custody of the Nigerian army. Meanwhile, a former Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Azubike Ejirika, was on Wednesday interrogated by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission for financial crimes over his alleged role in the $2.1 billion arms scam. According to the EFCC, Ejirika was invited to explain the procurement of arms and ammunition during the time he held sway as the cause between the September 2010 and January 2014. The retired general, his successor, Lieutenant General Kenneth Minima, and his retired Air Force and Navy chiefs had been indicted by the Committee on Audit on Defense Equipment Procurement in 2015. You will recall that EFCC had already seized properties, including hotels, worth over 1.2 billion naira from Ejirika in the year 2016. The governor of Akwa Ibom State, Udom Emmanuel, has signed the 2018 appropriation bill of 646.65 billion naira. That's approximately 0.74% lower than the original proposal, or 651.50 billion naira, earlier presented to the State House of Assembly. The bill, which had earlier been passed into law last week, was signed by the governor at a brief ceremony at the Executive Council chamber of the Government House, Uyo, the state capital. According to the budget, 43.1 billion naira is being allocated to capital expenditure and 94.6 billion naira for recurrent expenditure, while the consolidated fund charges stand at 120.8 billion naira. In his remarks, Governor Emmanuel thanked the House and the Committee on Finance and Appropriation for the budget and robust deliberations, which he said resulted in the speedy passage of the budget. Now, leaders of the South-South region of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, have resolved to work together in unity to ensure that the party forms the federal government come 2019. The South-South PDP leaders described the All Progressives Congress APC-led government as a failed government. More details in this report.
Speaking during the South-South Zonal Executive Council meeting of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, held at the banquet hall of the Government House, Port Harcourt, Rivers State, leaders of the party declared that it is in the interest of Nigerians for the All Progressive Congress APC to be shown the way out in 2019. The state's governor, Nyesom Wike, vowed that the PDP leaders will do everything possible to ensure that the party emerges victorious in the 2019 general elections.
For us here, all we want is that election must be free and fair. Allow people's vote to count. And we must speak out to know that Nigerians are tired as far as APC is concerned. APC came to power with all kinds of propaganda in the city. Now Nigerians are seeing that they have no hope of that social group who they say is a political party. All of us that are here, we have a responsibility to make sure that come 2019, PDP wins election. But PDP can only win the election if all of us from the South-South were together.
Akwa Ibom State Governor Udom Emmanuel said the South-South forms the foundation for the revival of the country, thereby charging PDP leaders in the region to brace up. The Senate Minority Leader, Senator Godswill Akpabio, also assured the gathering that members of the National Assembly will work with other PDP leaders to ensure that the APC is sent packing in 2019.
In Nigeria today, wherever South-South goes, that's where Nigeria goes, economically. So we must be able to also rise up and say, look, here we are. We hold the key to the economic success of this country. We hold the key to the pulse of this country. We hold the key to the treasure of this country. So we must play a major role in determining the economic direction of this country. For us to get to our destination, we must have a strategy. And I want all of us to do the talking, but more of the thinking. Let me say that from the south-south part of Nigeria, we must not only vote in 2019, we must protect our votes. We know that in the Senate and National Assembly today, what is to be opposed is being opposed for the interests of Nigerians. And we know it is only the National Assembly that symbolizes democracy.
The national chairman of PDP, Prince Uche Secondus, said by 2019, Nigeria will be liberated from the shackles of the APC.
The crisis in Oyo State chapter of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has taken a worse turn. The new harmonized list of the State Executive Council of the party, which was released by the national leadership on Tuesday, was said to have jolted the Senator Rashidi Ladoja faction. The faction reportedly conceded some slots to the faction headed by Seyi Makinde against the former's expectation. While the list ceded 14 slots to Ladoja's faction, 12 went to Makinde's faction. The positions of the state chairman, women leader, publicity secretary, legal advisor, vice chairman 1 and 2 went to Ladoja, while the position of state secretary and many other assistantship positions went to Makinde. But the decision reportedly jolted Ladoja faction so much, which report says their leaders have decided to pull out and join a neutral party ahead of next year's election. An appeal has been made to Nigerians not to ignore victims of human trafficking. This appeal was made at Anti-Human Trafficking Awareness Program organized by the Salvation Army to sensitize Nigerians on the dangers of the menace. More details in this report.
It is no news that Nigerian women and children are subjected to trafficking in persons to other West and Central African countries for forced labor and forced prostitution. Just recently, the federal government rescued some Nigerians from Libya. To curtail this act in Nigeria, these stakeholders were brought together by the Salvation Army Nigeria territory to sensitize Nigerians on the ills and implications of human trafficking.
The recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring or receipt of person by means of the threat or use of force or other forms of coercion, of adoption, of fraud, of deception, of the abuse of power or of a position of vulnerability, or of the giving or receiving of payment or benefit to achieve the concept of a person having control over another person for the purpose of exploitation.
Human trafficking is a modern day slavery. It is a situation where human beings are exploited, where the labor of Nigerians, Africans are exploited, both sexually in form of labor exploitation.
Our aim is to bring in different stakeholders and workers in this space to work collaboratively and to share ideas, knowledge, experiences, so that we can be stronger together in fighting this menace in our society. We understand that we can't do it alone. It will take a multi-pronged approach and a multi-agency approach to really fight it effectively.
While these stakeholders were unanimous in their submission that poverty is a major cause of human trafficking, they speak on possible solutions to the menace.
The bane of this is poverty. People are lured into traveling abroad, into sex working for money in order to take care of themselves, and they don't see anything wrong in it. And we're saying no, that in Nigeria there should be a stop to that, and hence this conference, so that when people are sensitized and everybody, all hands are joined together, all of us will fight this ill, which is now a trend.
Human trafficking scenarios both in country and cross-border, and the most important thing is it requires involvement of the community, families, and the government and civil society organizations in resolving the push factors, the pull factors, and the operation of the traffickers and smugglers in the country.
The most important thing is for us not only to rescue from the clutches of the exploiters, victims of human trafficking, but also to see a process of proper reintegration into the society, that victims are rescued, they are made to go through a system of vocational training, and then they are empowered and reintegrated into the society.
According to the United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, Nigeria is one of the leading African countries in human trafficking. In view of this, the time is right for awareness to be raised among citizens on the dangers of human trafficking.
You're still watching SuperScreen News at 12. We'll take a break now. When we return, we'll take some news from the business scene. So stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. And now on the business scene. The federal government says Dana airplane that overshot the runway at the Port Harcourt International Airport in Rivers State on Tuesday damaged navigational equipment at the airport. According to the federal government, the MD-83 aircraft with registration number 5N4/XRI and flight number 0348 had 54 persons on board, including 5 crew members. The Deputy Director of Press and Public Affairs at the aviation arm of the Federal Ministry of Transportation, James Odaudu, who disclosed this, said the Port Harcourt Airport was briefly closed for safety reasons after the incident occurred. Odaudu also said the airport was reopened after proper assessment on Wednesday. Meanwhile, the Accident Investigation Bureau has begun investigation into Tuesday's Dana Air incident at the Port Harcourt Airport. AIB spokesman Tuji Oketumbi, who disclosed this, said a team from the Bureau, led by the Director of Operations, Daiabo and Daraka, is already on ground in Port Harcourt for investigation into the incident. The team is expected to unravel the remote and immediate cause of the incident and make recommendations to forestall further occurrence. The investigation followed official report of the incident by the airline to AIB. You will recall that the Dana aircraft with registration number 9J036 flying from Abuja to Port Harcourt skidded off the runway at the Port Harcourt International Airport on Tuesday. And a bill for an act to amend the Central Bank of Nigeria Act 2018 has passed through second reading at the Senate. The amendment bill before the Senate seeks to compel the Central Bank of Nigeria to submit its annual budget to the National Assembly in the course of the annual appropriation bill or subsequent one for transparency and accountability in the operations of the bank.
The CBN governor acts as the chairman of the CBN board, and this is not in accordance with the principles of corporate governance, which advocates the separation of roles of the chairman of board and the governor to ensure appropriate internal checks and balances. In most developed countries, to ensure accountability, banks are supervised by a board.
I want to advise, Mr. President, for the spirit of accountability and even to check corruption. It is good these two offices are separated, and you will be able to now have proper oversight by our relevant committees of the Senate over the CBN.
Some of the key issues in the bill are that it also seeks to amend the Central Bank of Nigeria Act 2018 to appoint a person other than the governor as the chairman of the board. Other lawmakers shares different views.
There is nothing wrong in the governor of CBN also being chairman. I think by the fact of what has been written in this paper, we have ended up even indicting ourselves.
Not to begin an example that will later haunt us.
The issue of bringing the CBN budget here is already settled under the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Because if you go to Section 21 of that Act, it says that the central bank and other government parastatals and agencies listed in the schedule, about 21 of them, will submit the annual budget to the Minister for Finance.
Those were the lawmakers deliberating on the Amendment Act of the CBN in yesterday's plenary. And still on the business scene, the Naira closed at 362 per United States dollar at the parallel market on Wednesday, 2 days after the Central Bank of Nigeria injected $210 million into the foreign exchange market. The local unit had closed at 363 to a dollar on Tuesday. The Naira has been trading between 360 and 363 in recent weeks as CBN continues to intervene in the market once or twice on a weekly basis. The regulator had injected over $500 million into the forex market between penultimate Friday and last Monday. The analysts have said that the Naira is likely to remain stable against the greenback this week as demand for the U.S. currency weakens whenever the unit trade is below 360 Naira per dollar. You're still watching SuperScreen News at 12. We'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll take some foreign stories as well as some sports stories. Do stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us on SuperScreen News at 12. And now for some news on the foreign scene. Pakistan's Supreme Court has ruled that former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif cannot head the country's ruling party. The court's decision on Wednesday comes months after Sharif was deemed unfit to hold public office after corruption allegations had forced him to step down. A subsequent law known as the Elections Act 2017 was passed by the ruling Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz last year, which allowed Sharif to retake his post as party leader despite charges leveled against him. In the decision, the court ruled someone disqualified under the tenets of the Pakistani constitution cannot head a political party. Still on the foreign scene, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says his country helped stop an unimaginable wool slaughter in Australia. Australia confirmed Israel helped avert an alleged terror plot on the nation to bring down a plane last year. Last July, Australian police charged two brothers over an alleged plan to blow up an Etihad Airway flight traveling from Sydney to Abu Dhabi. Authorities have said the alleged plot was linked to the Islamic group ISIS. At the time, Australian police said a homemade bomb hidden inside a meat grinder was due to be carried onto a flight on 15th of July, but did not make it past security after the plan was aborted for an unknown reason. And now for some sports stories, Seun Adegun and Ngozi Owumere have finished 20th in the bobsleigh event at the Pyeongchang 2018 Winter Olympic Games, played in South Korea after completing the 4 hits in 3 minutes 29.60 seconds. They finished 7.15 seconds behind Germany's Mariama Jamanka and Lisa Bockwitz, who won the race. The plucky Nigerians finished 20th in Pyeongchang, more than 7 seconds behind gold medalist Germany in a sport where success and failure is measured in hundreds of seconds. And finally, on SuperScreen News at 12, national table tennis coach Nasiru Bello says the country will perform credibly at the forthcoming International Table Tennis Federation Africa Top 16 in Nairobi, Kenya. Report says the championship, which will hold from March 1st to 3rd, will feature top 16 players in men and women singles in Africa. Bello, who disclosed this to journalists, said the players are well prepared for the task ahead and will make the country proud. He also said Nigerians should be rest assured that the representatives are well-experienced players who have seen it all as far as the ping-pong game is concerned. And that's it on SuperScreen News at 12. I am Olamide Oka. Stay tuned to the rest of the programs coming your way on SuperScreen Television. Until next time, have a good day.